Hi, welcome to the Trucks Roll Podcast. I'm Tom Wiers, and today I'm in shop. I'm in Indianapolis at our service center, and with me today is Baltazar. He's our service manager, and we're going to take a few minutes to walk through the winterization inspection. It's that time of year. We're getting ready for the cold winter to start hitting us, and it's really important that we take time to take care of our trucks before that happens. So we're going to do a little walk around. Baltazar is going to use his expertise to help us understand why this is so important. Hi, welcome to the Trucks Roll Podcast. I'm Tom Wiers, and today I'm at our Indianapolis Service Center, and we're going to talk about winterization and why is winterization important. So some of our customers are on a very strict and frequent PM interval, so maybe 4 to even as many as 6 times a year. And if that's the case, you're probably in good shape as it relates to winterization because it's being done as part of the preventive maintenance. But other customers who don't use their units quite as much are on PM intervals that could be as little as once or even twice per year. And for those types of applications, it's really important to think about winterization. Good winterization inspection takes about 60 minutes, so it's basically 1 hour. But the ramifications and the help and the impact can be really profound. So when I think about winterization, I think about identifying problems and issues in the shop on the customer's time versus when the unit's out on a delivery, or perhaps the driver comes in the morning and the vehicle won't start. So chronic problems as it relates to cold temperature can be, again, no start issues. It can be fuel gel issues. You can have cab issues as it relates to heater, defrost, windshield wipers, washer fluid, all those sorts of things that we don't generally think of. Tires is another thing we're going to talk about in our podcast, and the importance of having good tread depth when you think about the ability to stop on icy conditions or snowy conditions and those sorts of things. There's a lot of compliance issues, a lot of liability issues running commercial trucks. Winterization is an important part to make sure that we're properly prepared, we have the right documentation, so if there is a situation, we've got our bases covered. And also it's good for drivers, right? Nobody wants to come in the morning and jump in a truck that won't start the day off on a bad foot, if you will. So we like to go through a really comprehensive winterization for all of our customers. And again, if you're doing regular 4 PM intervals a year, you're probably in good shape. But if you're not, it's something to think about. So let's get started with our winterization. We're going to walk through a truck, walk around with Baltazar. He's our service manager here in Indianapolis, and I hope you enjoy this session. Baltazar, why don't we start with this particular unit? I love this truck. It's a heavy work truck, customer unit it's in, and we're going to walk through this and talk about all the components that a good winterization program touches on. So Baltazar, let's pop the hood. And our technicians are going to use our winterization form, so we're going to walk through point by point. All right, so the first thing we're going to look at is the fuel water separator. That's on our checklist. And Baltazar, why don't you point that out and tell us why that's so important?
Yeah, so the fuel water separator, it's located on this vehicle, in this area here. It is important for us to get that checked out because a lot of times it can have excessive water in the fuel system, and during winter times it can also gel up as well.
Yeah, fuel contamination is a big deal, so we want to make sure that not only do we have the water out, but that we've got good fuel, clean fuel going through the engine. Next, we're going to talk about the thermostat. So obviously the thermostat's going to help regulate the temperature of the engine, and that's terribly important. You want to talk about the thermostat, please?
That is correct, Tom. So the thermostat in this engine is located here on the top area, and it is important for us to check that just to make sure that it is not stuck open or stuck closed. We would start the engine, get it to operating temperature, and make sure everything's operating correctly at that point.
Sounds great. We're going to check the block heater operation. So on this particular unit, the block heater's here, right?
Yep, the connection will be there, so we'll plug it in and test it.
So there's actual physical test that goes along with that. Then we're going to check the antifreeze freeze point. And so you want to talk about what that looks like and why that's so important.
We have some equipment we can use to test the coolant that's already in the truck and make sure that it's actually going to be good to stay in the truck, or if it needs a flush. If it needs a flush, we recommend that flush on the customer. Right.
So we want to make sure that we got the right type of antifreeze conditions to help us throughout the winter months. Of course, there's going to be a check of all the belts and hoses. We're looking for anything that might be frayed or worn.
That's correct.
Better to catch it in the shop environment, right, than out on the road.
That's correct. Yeah, the last thing a customer needs to experience is a breakdown due to a broken belt.
Yeah. But if
that's
they do have,
easily be caught.
if they do have a breakdown, we can help them out there too, right?
That's correct.
Hopefully that's not the case, but we're here for them. All right. We're going to pressure test the cooling system. So do you want to talk about the cooling system on this?
Yeah, so in the cooling system, there's several hoses that, go into the heater core, go into the engine block, and pressure testing it will let us know if there's a leak. It could be a small leak, it could be a seep, it could be a huge leak. With the pressure test, it'll actually let us know if there is a leak or not.
Yeah.
And if there is, we can advise the customer what repairs needed and then quote it and hopefully get it repaired for them.
Fantastic. I love it. So much cheaper to do it in the shop than it is out on the road. We're going to check the heater and defroster operations in the cab. So our technicians go in there and make sure that the heater is working properly, windows are defrosting, and then we're going to go to the cab air filter.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that it's getting the proper airflow. Okay. Next, we're going to check the cab air filter. So Balzar, show us where that's at and why that's important.
Cab air filter on this unit, it's located right here behind this box. So I'm going to go ahead and remove the case.
All right.
And as you can see, you can actually see that it's pretty filthy. It's
right.
And it should be replaced. It is highly recommended to be replaced.
And so, besides what is just the airflow into the cab, does that help?
That's correct.
Okay, so the air conditioning and heating are functioning properly and not being restricted. So fantastic. The next item on, we're going to look at the window and door seals. So.
Yeah, so another part of the winterization process will be for us to check the seals and check the latches, make sure we lube them up. I'm sure we all experience where, we try to open the door and they get stuck. It could be something simple as, the trim being either loose or not being lubed. With us checking it, it'll ensure that that's not going to happen.
Right.
Or at least help avoid it.
Okay, fantastic. So the next thing our technicians would do is they would look at the air tanks and drain all the moisture out of those. So
that's correct.
Why is that important?
That's important because a lot of times the air system builds up condensation during its normal operation, and in doing so, that water can freeze if the air tanks are not empty out from the water.
Right.
Especially in a day cab or a sleeper where the lines hooking up to the trailer can actually push some of that water into the trailer, and then you can cause some issues where trailer brakes will lock up, the brakes on the truck will lock up.
Sure.
And I've experienced that myself with some other customers.
Yeah.
That was their issue, and they had to use brake antifreeze to get them freed up. And you don't want to get to that point because then it could damage some other stuff using that stuff as well.
Right. Yeah. So most of the trucks we work on are air brakes. Got to keep the moisture out of the system. Then we're going to go to the air dryer and the air dryer heater operation. So on this particular unit, air dryer's here. You want to talk about why that's important? It's kind of back to the keeping moisture out of the system, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. So this should be recommended to be replaced. In my opinion, should be replaced every 6 months. Some companies or customers don't do them until a year or until they're due. But yeah, replacing it will ensure that it's cleaning out the air system from any debris and all that.
So the next two items on our list, Baltazar, are checking the alternator output and load testing the batteries. You want to talk about the importance of the electrical system?
Yeah, so in freezing temperatures, or even just below 50 degrees, batteries have a harder time starting the engine or even any other components that are like a lift gate because of the lower temperatures. That is the reason why they have a cold cranking amp because it's
right.
on cold weather. Yeah, so it's important for us to check the batteries, check the alternator output to make sure that the alternator is working properly and the batteries are holding the charge.
Right. In preparation for this, I did a little research and it said that batteries lose 60% of their capabilities at 0 degrees.
That's correct.
So the battery life goes down quickly with the cold temperature, or the battery power, I should say, and it's harder for the motor to start because all the viscosity, the fluids are really thick, and so it's more difficult on the batteries in that regard as well.
And the longer the weather it's cold, the longer it's
Good point.
the battery is going to be worn down.
Right.
And if they're already weak, start into the cold weather months, they're going to be even weaker. And then the last thing we want a customer to experience is a breakdown in cold weather.
Right. Jump start. My driver comes in the morning, it's already cold, he goes out to his truck, cranks it over, nothing's happening, right? Drivers aren't happy. It creates havoc for the morning. Okay, a couple other items on our checklist. We're going to check the exhaust system for leaks. We're going to check tire condition and pressure. And then we're also going to inspect the wiper blades and the fluid bottle, make sure it's full and there's no leaks and that sort of thing. So making sure that when the driver gets on the road, if it's inclement weather, he's going to have a safe unit to operate and not have to take any chances. So one other thing on this particular unit, and I love these big work trucks. A lot of this particular unit's got a crane on it as well. But let's talk about the lift gate, because it's easy to think about the chassis and all the mechanical parts, but most of our customers, again, have a lot of work trucks in their fleets. This particular unit, as I said, has a lift gate. So you want to talk about why it's important not only to do the chassis, but the lift gate as well?
Lift gates are normally not checked as they should be. They need to be lubricated. The hydraulic fluid needs to be checked to make sure it's not low. Because especially in the winter months, a customer can drive to the job site and then realize the lift gate's working slow. Or maybe it's because of a battery condition that's, they're worn out, they're weak, or the fluid's low. And especially in winter, it's the battery, the hydraulic fluid gets thicker, just like engine oil, but it's not actually being pushed at all times. Like, let's say an engine, when it's running, it's sitting
exactly.
Correct.
Yeah. So that's a good point. It's easy for us to forget about the auxiliary equipment, and then, to your point, you go out to the customer site and you got a problem and no good.
Right.
Well, I think that gives our customers a good idea of what a winterization program looks like at Wiers. It's part of our PM process if we get a PM, but if you're in between preventive maintenance intervals, it's a good idea to stop, get the truck in. It's a very quick inspection, but worth a lot of value to our customers and make sure their trucks are running on a daily basis. So Balthazar, now that we've kind of walk through the winterization process, any stories that come to mind as you think about this in your experience?
Yeah, my main thing I always want to check when on winterization is making sure defrost is working.
The defrost?
A lot of times the defrost of some customers, companies do not realize that that's a very, very important part of a truck, especially in winter, to making sure that the windshield is clear, for clear view for the driver to be able to drive safely.
Right.
If it's not working, then there's no way for us to for them to drive the vehicle. And another story would be also exhaust. I know of a driver that dealt with exhaust fumes going into the cab because of an exhaust leak. The winter months, they're running either the APU
that's a good point, right?
or running their front AC, and if there's an exhaust leak, the engine has to be running to actually get that heat going. So
that's a big safety issue, right?
That's a very big safety.
From that.
Yes,
right.
exactly.
Yeah. Because that's interesting. This is a work truck, so I generally think about this truck leaving in the morning, coming back. But obviously, we work on a lot of tractors and over-the-road tracks as well.
Right.
And again, those drivers have to run those trucks longer, just to keep the cab warm.
Overnight. Yeah, keeping it warm, and they may not be aware they have an exhaust leak until we check it out and let them know, hey, you have an exhaust leak and it should be fixed.
That's a great point. So thanks for sharing that. Anything else comes to mind as far as what you've seen customers?
Yeah, tires. It's recommended for tires to be replaced. Steer tires 430 seconds, drive tires 230 seconds, 430 seconds.
Right.
I would say if you're going into the winter months and they're already on low tread, they should be replaced.
Yeah.
If drive tires at 430 seconds, do not wait till the minimum. They should be replaced way before that.
Right.
Going into winter, it's going to get worse, and then there's a lot of breakdowns. Time and winter and all that just kind of goes into the effect where it's going to be almost impossible to get them replaced in time.
Yeah, that's another good question. One of the things that all of our customers have to deal with is the legalities of running commercial trucks, right? And we all see the billboards with the hammer or whatever, somebody wanting to sue one of our customers for a truck incident. So when you think about tires, think about steering, steerability, drivability, breakability, all those sorts of things are important. So that's a good idea. When you're going into winter, make sure you have some good tires on there so you don't have problems and end up with a hammer knocking on your door.
That's
right?
correct. Nobody wants that.
We don't want that. Balthazar, thank you so much for sharing a few minutes with us, walking us through the winterization process. I think our customers are going to get a lot of value out of this video, and appreciate all that you do for our company and our customers, keeping those trucks rolling. Hope you enjoyed this Trucks Roll podcast about winterization. If you'd like to learn more, please go to Wiers.com. Trucks Roll.